Hey aspirants, welcome back to MCM Initiative. So today, let's continue with the governance discussion. Over to Vikas sir.
Thank you, Chaitanya ma'am. So the topic that we are discussing is grievance redressal. Now, grievance redressal becomes very important because of two reasons. So one, we see that in the last few years, there has been a rapid increase in the number of grievances that are happening. So if you look at some of the data, the RBI data says that the number of complaints that RBI is receiving has nearly tripled to 1.8 lakhs in the last 1 year. And if you look at the data of CPGRAMS, which is a very major, which is a very important initiative by government, it says that it has registered 25 lakh cases in one single year, which is a huge volume of cases that we are seeing. And on the other hand, parallelly, government is also ramping up its initiatives. A lot of initiatives have been taken to address the different types of grievances that are emerging in different sectors. So in this context, grievance redressal itself becomes a very important topic from the exam's point of view. So let us first talk about the importance of grievance redressal mechanism. Why grievance redressal mechanism is required? So one of the most important point is to ensure citizen-centric governance. So moving away from the government-centric governance, we need to shift towards citizen-centric governance, where you can use certain catchphrases like right to be heard, which can be equated to like right to privacy, etc. This, if we have to ensure that right to be heard is enabled, grievance redressal becomes very important. And second, we can talk about ensuring the administrative accountability. Now, without providing for the grievance redressal, ensuring accountability or transparency in the governance is nearly impossible. So this is where providing for a proper grievance redressal mechanism becomes important. And then talking about improving the public trust. So if the public has to have the trust in the mechanism, in the governance, providing for grievance redressal again becomes very important. So in these points also try to bring certain examples as well where we have been trying to do that. Like for example, you can talk about the Umang, you can talk about MyGov, all this in the points as well. And also adding on to this, we can talk about how the grievance redressal mechanism helps in reducing the corruption and delays in the governance. So that is another point. And also it enables predictable governance. So as we have discussed with the governance as well, providing for grievance redressal helps in reducing the uncertainties or unpredictability in the governance. So for example, if we talk about, let's say, the DBT, so the people can expect exactly when they can receive the direct benefit transfer, so they don't have to wait till the benefit comes. So these are all some of the very important reasons why grievance redressal is very important. And then talking about what are the issues in ensuring grievance redressal. So one, we see that there is the weak enforcement of the mechanism itself. Like for example, if we talk about the citizens charter, we see that there is no statutory backing or there is any proper mechanism for its implementation. And second, we see that there is a huge pileup of the cases. So if you look at the RTI, so which provides for a grievance redressal, we see that the number of cases are increasing every day, where we are not able to solve these problems at all. That is another issue. And the third, we can talk about the resource constraint or the administrative incapacity. We do not have the sufficient amount of manpower or in terms of the technological availability with the government, which is another challenge. And then talking about the limited citizen awareness. So it's not only the responsibility of the government, but even the citizens have to be aware. Like we discussed in the previous discussion as well, a lot of citizens are not aware of various initiatives like that of Umang or CPGRAMS, etc., which makes them ineffective. And also adding to this, we can talk about how there has been the fragmented institutional framework. We have multiple grievance redressal mechanisms, but each of them working in silos. There is no proper coordination or convergence among these mechanisms, which also makes them ineffective. And in this context, we see that government has taken a lot of efforts. So talking about the CPGRAMS 2.0, the next version of the CPGRAMS is a very major initiative in the recent years. And then we have the Umang, which also provides for the services in one single platform. And we have the Citizens Charter Act. Then we have the social audit mechanism, and we also have the ERTI. Then we have the Sevotam model, and we also have the National Consumer Helpline, which has been established recently. All these are working towards improving the grievance redressal in the country. And then finally talking about what more can be done in order to improve the grievance redressal in the country. So definitely one, we can talk about strengthening the legal mechanism, like for example providing statutory backing for the citizens charter, and then talking about providing for single window clearances. So in terms of grievance redressal, there has to be a smooth operability where the citizens can be able to get all the benefits in one single platform. So that is one. And also providing for accountability. The grievance redressal mechanism also have to have the accountability in it. providing for the timelines, ensuring that the people are held responsible in case of delays, etc. And also we can talk about the use of technology, in particular integrating AI into the grievance redressal mechanism that can streamline the whole process, and also having an independent grievance redressal mechanism, the independent ombudsman, similar to that of the banking systems. So these are some of the steps that we can be suggesting in terms of improving the grievance redressal mechanism in the country. And finally, in the conclusion, you can have different types of conclusions here. One, you can link it to good governance, or similarly you can bring in second ARC, which talks about how the ultimate test of governance is the quality of service that is provided to the citizens. These are the different conclusions that you can have here.
Thank you, Chaitanya. So let's look into the conceptual understanding of what whole of government approach is, and at the same time collaborative governance is. So the whole of government approach is a type of model where different government agencies as well as departments work across organizational boundaries to achieve a shared goal instead of operating in silos. So it emphasizes the horizontal, that is interdepartmental coordination, and vertical, that is across center, state and local governments. So this ensures that the integration of policy, planning and implementation is taken care of. And talking about the collaborative governance, so it is a broader concept where the government, private sector as well as the civil society organizations and citizens jointly participate in decision making and implementation. Basically, it is shifting from the government does it alone model to that of government as a facilitator model. Now let's look into the rationale for whole of government approach. So here the complexities and interconnected problems, such as if we talk about nutrition, so nutrition has to be addressed from different angles, like be it women related or agriculture or rural development or health. So such kind of complexity exists. So along with that, the other issue is duplication and wastage of resources. So where generally the schemes gets overlapped. Next issue is lack of accountability, where no single department hosts the outcome. Next issue is fragmented citizen experience. So citizens forced to approach multiple counters for related services. Data and information silos, lack of interoperability between departments and other ministries. Now let's look into various initiatives here. So the first initiative is PM Gati Shakti, so which integrates close to 16 ministries. And the other popular initiative is Aspirational District Program. So here Niti Aayog converges various schemes at central level, state level as well as district administration. And next major initiative is Jal Jeevan Mission. So here ministries such as Panchayati Raj, Rural Development and Community Participation, and Poshan Abhiyan. So here this involves integration of ICDS, Health Ministry as well as Panchayati Raj institution. Now let's look into the collaborative governance. So here the broader stakeholders are public-private partnership for infrastructure, urban metros, and civil society organizations or NGOs. They are key in addressing the last mile connectivity, and citizen participation for feedback mechanism. So here platforms such as MyGov platform, participatory budgeting and Gram Sabha are such platforms. Academia government links, so policy think tanks, so Niti Aayog research collaboration. So let's look into the challenges associated with collaborative governance as well as the whole of government initiative. The issues such as rigid rules of business. So Government of India transaction of business rules assign work for different ministries in a specific ways. Then accountability diffusion. So everybody's responsibility becomes nobody's responsibility. Center state political friction. Cooperative federalism often undermined by trust deficit, and capacity constraints with respect to the civil servants, and then short tenures of the officers. So disrupt continuity of collaborative initiatives. Let's look into various solutions for this issues discussed. First is strengthening interoperable digital platforms. So like coming up with India's stack model, similar to that of AgriStack. So for real-time interdepartmental data sharing and outcome-based budgeting, and at the same time strengthening the local self-governments, capacity building in negotiation, coordination and systems thinking for civil servants, institutionalizing the center state collaboration. So at the same time strengthening interstate council, Niti Aayog's governing council mechanisms, and strengthening citizens feedback mechanism loop. Finally, let us look into certain keywords which are important from answer writing point of view. So here we can use silo mentality or departmentalization, horizontal coordination, that is interdepartmental, and then vertical coordination, that is center state local collaboration, and polycentric governance, so district governance model, citizen centric governance.
Well, aspirants, That's it for today.